Hallelujah. Good evening, good morning, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are, and whatever time you might be tuning in to this video, this teaching. Hopefully, something would be said today that would be a blessing to you, would be something that would uplift you, something that would point you in the direction God would. I pray that all is well. We are in unprecedented times, which is also prophesied according to the biblical narrative. So it's not strange. It might be new to us, but it's not strange to him, and it's not taking him by surprise. Him being Yah, being God, whom I speak of. So welcome. As we continue into our teaching, what is man? Or who is man? Why is man? Why am I here? We know that last couple of teachings we started off. This teaching is based out of Psalm chapter 8. We know the biblical narrative, Psalms 8, the story, the writing, the inspiration in Psalms 8 speaks of the creation narrative, the creation story, if you will. And so we try to get into the mind of David. We try to sit in his seat, if you will. With this music, this instrument of God, composing this psalm, this song, and thinking about the goodness of God and his magnificence, his creation, and so on. And then the question comes in Psalms 8, I think it is verse 8, the way he asks, what is man? That you think of him. In the Hebrew names version, and the King James version, I believe, says that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man, that you consider him, or that you care for him, right? And you have made him a little lower than the angels. He went on to say, and we got into that discussion. We got into his mindset and what he was talking about. We went over into Genesis, and we rehashed the Genesis story. We dug up these gems that talked about how God, when he began to create life, he created life and gave instructions, specific instructions, to bring forth fruit after their kind, the trees and the herb-bearing seeds and the fruit-bearing trees and all these things. And then the animals, and he spoke to the ground, he spoke to the earth, and he spoke to the waters, and he commanded the waters to bring forth living creatures, and he commanded the living creatures to reproduce after their kind. And I want to throw out some gravel in the rice of those who want to claim that humans are animals, and we are just part of the animal kingdom and part of the animal family. I want to point to this story, unequivocally stating that we were created different. When it came to mankind, the human being, the male and the female, we were created differently from everything else. So it's not, doesn't matter what you say. It's more important that we hone in to what Yah says, to what God says, to what Jehovah says. And he spoke to these beings, the wild beasts of the fields and the creeping things and the flying birds, and their instructions were to reproduce after their kind. A lion or a tiger or A bird, an eagle cannot produce an animal, and vice versa. Cannot produce a human being, and vice versa. A bird cannot produce a lion or none of the earthly creatures. A bird must produce after bird kind. And every animal is given instructions to produce after their kind. And as we speak today, we can see that as being absolute 100% true. And then we went into the whole creation narrative of the man, and how the man came to be, and what that symbolizes, and all. We went into all of that. 1, 2, 3. This is part 4. Right? And part 4, we ended in Genesis chapter 2, in the account where this man was given everything. He was born, as the old folks would say, with a gold spoon in his mouth. He was born with a gold spoon in his mouth. He was given everything, was laid at his feet. He was given instructions about what to do. We talked about all of that. And here we are in the garden. Okay? And we demonstrated through the written narrative why we believe that mankind intrinsically knows what to do. Because he's a copy, he was photocopied in the image, in God's image. And now today we have all kinds of ways we can make copies. We copy originals that look like the originals. And if you don't have the technological and the keen eye, you yourself, I myself, may not be able to determine an original document from a copy or a scanned copy. And you know that. We live in the technological world. If you sign, and I've signed documents, because I love blue ink pens, right? I love to write in blue ink because everything is printed in black and white. So the blue to me adds a contrast. It will set something off. So when I'm signing something, I like to use blue ink. So if you go and take my original document that is signed with a blue ink pen and copy it on a photocopier, especially a regular photocopier, black and white, the copy will come out black and white. And it's easy for me to determine what's the original and what's the copy, because the original signature is in blue and the copy's signature is in black. And we know all these things. We experience them every day, almost. Some of us experience them every day. So we are in Genesis chapter 2, and we're going to talk about the creation of the female. Okay? We saw the creation of the male, right? God gave us a hint of the creation of the male and the female in Genesis 1, 26, 27, 28. Then we saw the creation of the male in Genesis 2 and 7. And we heard what God said to him when God took him and put him in the garden to keep it and to dress it. And we looked at those words, what they mean, what they meant. And we found out that the word cultivate meant to serve, to be a servant of something. That was awesome. That was mind-boggling, mind-blowing. It was beautiful. And we heard the instruction that Yah gave to the male, because he was speaking to the male at this point. We heard the instruction. Of every tree you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge and good and evil you shall not eat. For in the day that you do eat of that tree, you will surely die. And we talked about this, the idea that this man had to have known about this tree. He had to have known about this tree. If we read and think about the narrative, that's what was said to him. He was put in the middle in the garden. He was given instructions about what to do, to dress and to keep it, and then specific instruction about not eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil by name, as if to call that tree that name, gave that specific tree that specific name. How would this man just being put in a garden, no questions asked? Well, excuse me, hello, what tree are you talking about? Can you show me where that is? I don't know where it is. What is this tree? No questions asked. Which gives you the illusion that the man had to have some information about this tree. Where did he get that information? Again, we don't verbatim know per se, but we can deduce that he had to have known. One, because he was a copy in the image of God, right? So the DNA, the attributes of God, and all those things were imprinted on him. That's the word zakah, the memory of God, the remembrance. Keep me in memory. That's what that word means, zakah. So we know that. So there are things that he is well aware of, not instinctively, intrinsically. Okay? We talked about that. And then we talked about God continues to bless the man as he progresses in his plan. Right? What was his plan in 126? Let us make man in our image and in our likeness, and let us give him dominion over the fowls and the birds of the air and all those things. And then in 28, it says to be fruitful, and God blessed them. It said, be fruitful and multiply. Be fruitful. Well, you can't multiply if you're one single. A single human being cannot multiply. A single human being cannot multiply and make more human beings. We need two. And we need two people of opposite sex. We need a male and we need a female. We need a male or a female. And then you might say to me, well, I don't really necessarily need a male, but you need something from the male. You need something from him. If you don't need him physically, you need something from him physically. And we know all these people who freeze their stuff. You know what I'm talking about. Don't look at me with that tone of voice, as my old bishop would say. But it's important for us to understand that. So as well as all the while God is putting together this garden, he's also putting together his plan for creation and for humanity. And we're going into where the woman came from and so on. And we're going to look at some things, right? And if any one of you have heard myself and my friend, I say that a lot, one of my good friends, Dal Fletcher, on one of our podcasts we did some months ago, where we talk about the essence of males and we talk about the essence of females. We did like 5, 6, 7 parts of each in each category. And you can go search and I'm sure you'll find them out there. Awesome teaching, revelation, instruction, real good, solid information. And I'm going to basically go over some of this, rehash some of this information. Hopefully you get it. But here God is putting forth his plan. He's created the man. He has the man in the garden. The man has the instructions of what to do and what not to do. Okay? And so he continues to spoon feed, if you will. He continues to make preparations for this man in such an elaborate way that this man would be without. He would be full of everything that he needs. So let's go to read Genesis chapter 2, and we're going to take it up in verse 18. Okay? Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, according to the Hebrew Names Version, states, and Jehovah Elohim said, the version doesn't have Jehovah Elohim. That's just me reading over there what they have on the Lord God, which is, if you go into Hebrew, that word there is Jehovah. The other word is Elohim. It says, and Jehovah Elohim said, it is not good. Who said it? He did. The Creator did. Jehovah did. It is not good for the man to be alone. It is not good because, first, he would not be able to fulfill the blessing and the plan that I have instituted. And it's not good because that's not what I have set in motion, right? That's not what I have set up for him. That's not how it is. That's him alone, and how is he going to multiply? How is he going to copy me? How is he going to copy me and bring me forth? How is he going to keep my memory in the earth, if you will? How is he going to do it if he can't replicate or duplicate himself or myself in him? Okay? So he makes the statement, it is not good for the man to be alone. I will make him a helper comparable to meet him. I will make him a helper comparable to him. I will make him a helper comparable to him. I will make him somebody that he can relate to, somebody that's compared, somebody that's in equity with him, somebody that's in similitude with him, somebody that's in same scale, same balance, somebody who's comparable. Okay? So, and we skip down, right? Before I go into some of the words that I want to go into, I want to read the whole narrative, right? So, I want to skip down from 18 to 21. And say, Jehovah Elohim caused the man to fall into a deep sleep. As the man slept, he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh in its place. 22. Jehovah Elohim made a woman from the rib which he had taken from the man and brought her to the man. And the man said, this is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She will be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore, a man will leave his father and mother and will join with his wife, and they will be one flesh. The man and his wife were both naked, and they were not ashamed. That brings us to the end of chapter 2. So let's go back to verse 18. Let's dig into this creation. Let's dig into this aspect of Yah's creation that he brought forth for the man, right? And we could already see, just based on what we read, that Yah said, I want to make something comparable to him. And what did the man say when he saw her? This is now bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. Right? That means he recognized the comparison. He recognized the similitude. He recognized the sameness, if you will. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Oh, that look like what? Oh, A little different, okay? But yet still, face, standing on 2 feet, 2 ears, eyes, nose, mouth, okay? All right, that looks, this is now bone, right? And flesh is what he is saying. Speaking specifically about physical makeup, because he's seen somebody that looks not exactly like him, but in his similitude. All right? So let's go back up to verse 18. Let's dig at this word, help meet. The King James Version says, I'll read it from the King James Version before I go into the word. And Jehovah Elohim said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him an help meet for him. Comparable, help meet. Let's look at the word help meet. Okay? That word, it means to help, to succor, right? One who helps. Okay? The root of that word, ezer, that's the Hebrew word, ezer. The root of that Hebrew word, ezer, is another Hebrew word, azar. And that word, okay, according to Brown's, Drivers, and Briggs, means to help, to succor, to support. Support. Okay? It also means, according to Strong's, to surround. That is, to protect or aid. Listen to those things. Listen to these words. And this is basic Hebraic stuff here. Right? Strong's is not a lexicon. Hopefully, we know that. Strong's is not a lexicon. A Brown's, Drivers, Briggs is a little, I would say, a little bit better than Strong's, but still not digging into the actual Hebrew, right? Because we all know, we should know that Hebrew is a concrete language. Hebrew it's rooted to things. It's tied to the earth. It's tied to something in the land. It's tied to the earth. Whereas the Greek language is mystical and mythical, and it's mind oriented. Okay, it's all in the psyche, right? That's why those words are Greek words, psyche and psychology and all of those things. Those are really Greek oriented words. Why? Because they deal with the psyche. Okay, Hebrew is rooted and grounded in the earth, in the actual physical part of the earth that you could see, touch, taste, smell, hear, and all these things. That's how the Hebrew language, that's how the Hebrew language is created. Right? And just from this basic thing here, we see the importance of that person that God wants to create to help the male, to support the male, to protect the male. So this is not a fly-by-night thing. It's not. This is not a fly-by-night thing at all. As a matter of fact, let me see if I could. Let me see if I could go a little deeper. SUCCO. Succor. It's I thought succor would have given me a little different slant or different tangent. But this is basically the same thing. Assistance and support in times of wow. Check this one out. I just Googled it. Assistance and support in times of hardship and distress. Wow. Whoa. So think about that. Not just help in good times, but help in hardship and distress. Think about that. That's awesome. That's awesome. So he's not creating some blip. Something. He created someone as a help that is equitable, that is equal, if you will, to this male. Somebody who's going to be there for him in good times and in hardships and distress. Somebody who will help him through good and bad, difficult, joyful, successful, whatever. Ups and downs. Reminds me of the scripture, I think it's in, hold on. Let's search that out. Two is better than one? Remember that? Is it in Ecclesiastes? That says 2 is better than 1. Right? Because when one goes down, the other one is there to encourage them back up. And when the other one goes down, the other one is there to do the same thing, to reciprocate. So 2 is better than 1. Even this old saying, I grew up, you always hear, older folks saying, 2 heads are better than 1. 2 heads are always better than 1. In a multitude of counsel, there is safety. All these things point to the fact that 2 together is much better than 1 by themselves. Okay? So here Yah is saying, I want to make a help meet that is equal, that is comparable, that is going to be able to support, encourage, protect, help, all of that good stuff. And that's just one word. Help meet. Okay? Let's look at another word. Let's go down to verse 21. He says, and Jehovah Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man, and as he slept, he took one of his ribs. So we're not just looking at the helpmeet comparable, right? We're looking at the construction, right? The things that was used to construct this phenom, this feminine phenom. We want to look at everything that God said pertaining to her construction, because that's what he did. He built her. He took one of the man's ribs, one of his ribs. Okay? Yes, girl, I know you say you're strong and all that, but just remember, you came from one rib, so you're not stronger than. Okay? Women are not stronger than men, and they cannot do anything a man can do. I am sorry to break your heart for those of you who believe that. They are not stronger than men, and they cannot do anything a man can do. They can do some things men can do, but they cannot do everything that a man can do. I'm sorry, but they cannot. It is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. Making noise, you could protest for the rest of your life. Okay? It's not going to change that. it is not going to change that truth. So, seeing that we understand that we can't change it, let's understand the whole psychology, Greek, the whole philosophy, Greek, of this woman. Why and how. The why and the how and the for what purpose. Right? And that is going to give us substantive things to be able to move on in life, to be able to accept the prayer of serenity. God help me to, how did it go? I can't even remember how it go. To change the things that I can, to accept the things that I cannot, and the courage, something to change, the strength to change the things that I can change, the courage to accept the things that I cannot change, and the wisdom to know the difference between the two. Right? So I need strength to change the things that I can change, which is my attitude. Okay? That the biblical narrative talks about from Genesis to Revelation, talk about this attitude of us, this human attitude that we have, this false perception that we have. So we need courage to be able to change that. We need strength to be able to change the things that we can change. We need courage to be able to accept the fact that there are some things we cannot change. This is one of the things that I'm putting to you. You cannot change. I'm sorry. You cannot change that. And then wisdom to know the difference, so that I would be able to fight a good fight, and not fight something that I have no stand on. I have no ground to stand on. Right? And you see what's going on in the world out there. I'm not a political person, okay? But I see what's going on in the world. I see what people are trying to do, what they're doing, I hear what they're saying, and all the noise they're making, and all the stuff that is being created. And I look at why they're doing that, the feminism movement, or all this stuff that, men trying to be women, women trying to be men, and all that kind of stuff. You can't change it. It cannot happen. Maybe physically. If that is satisfying to you, well, I don't know what else to tell you. But it's not about physical. When it comes to Yah, it's not, let me rephrase that. It's not just about physical when it comes to Yah. It's not just about physical. Okay? When it comes to Jehovah, it's both entities. It's both entities. And in a lot of cases, it's more principle, ethical, moral, spiritual than physical. And those things, the ethical, moral, spiritual, those values supersede the physical things, because those values are what you need to have in high esteem to be able to make the changes that you need to make. And the courage that you need is to accept the fact that, listen, there are things I cannot change. Again, you didn't create you. I didn't create me. I didn't create me male. You didn't create you female. He didn't create him male either. Nobody created, we didn't create each other. So once we get to the source, and we get to the truth, the old folks used to say, son, if you want clean water, you have to go to the head of the fountain, not on the bottom. When you want clean water, the cleanest water you can get, is at the head of the fountain. Okay? Is where it began. And that's where we are today. What is man? So he took a rib from the man and created the woman. Let's look at the word rib. The word rib is tesalah. Tisela. Okay? Tsalo. All right? It means side, Bronx, Drivers, Briggs, definition. Beam. Think about the words you are hearing in your ears. Beam. Cells. Okay? Side chambers or cells. Plank, board, leaves of the door. You know, the leaves of the door. It means a rib as curved, right? If you look at the skeleton of a human being, his ribs are curved from back to front. And they meet in the front like that, right? They attach to the spine in the back, and they curve around to the front, and they meet, and they have that bone in front of that they attach to. It's called a sternum. Okay, don't worry. I do a little biology in school, so I know what I'm talking about. It's a rib because it's curved, and we could talk about that. Okay, because if you think about building construction, right? I was a firefighter, so I understand a little bit about building construction, right? If you think about building construction, right? A lot of buildings are built like warehouses and stuff like that. They're built with straight beams going across the roof, going across the top to hold the weight of the roof, right? And then this is like I'm talking about like in the beginning, right? And then as we got closer to today, they realized that you can build higher and you can build wider if you institute a curve in the beam. So instead of making the beam long and straight, they make the beam like curved. They put a nice curve in the beam. And now we've seen them all over the world, and all in a variety of different building structures, right? These nice arches, they call them arches and curves and stuff like that. Well, intrinsically, a curve it creates strength. A wide curve is stronger than a wide straight beam. Okay? So just to throw you a little something in there, ladies. You got some strength. You got some chutzpah. You got some strength in you. But don't think too highly of yourself. Okay? Because that's just one rib, remember. The man still had all the other ribs. And he's still stronger. People, let's not make that an issue. That's the truth. Okay? So that's what that word signifies, right? And the word salat or salah it's a architectural word. It's a word that talks about the structure of a thing, the physical structure of a thing. Again, I would say to you, remember, Hebrew is grounded in things you can see and feel and taste and touch and hear. It's real. It's not mythical or it's not imaginative, okay, or mystical. Let's look at the root of the word salah. Let's look at because that word, that's just what all that I said is just surface of what that word means. So when we go to the root word now, it talks about salah, right? Salah. Those of you who listened to part 1, and I think somewhere in part 2 also, we kind of regurgitated the same thing. It talks about the question that David asked about what is man. And when we dug into the word for man, we found all these little things that were kind of negative in connotation, right? It portrayed a man as a weak, as a feeble being. Remember that? If you can remember, if you doubt me, go back and listen to that teaching. Part 1, I think it is mostly. We may have brought it back up again in part 2, but only briefly. But here again, the root of the same word that we talk about, the rib, and we talk about the curve and the strength and the curve and all of those things. And we just talk about how the woman has some strength. Yet still, in its root, it's the root meaning of that is to limp, to be lame. Again, going back to this idea of the feebleness of this human being. So there's these two dynamics in play. We are strong, yet we are weak. Who said that? Who said that in a different way? When I am weak. Right? So we see this dynamic in play. This is the substance of what was used to create you, a young lady, as beautiful as you are. Let's look at another word. Let's go to verse 22. And the rib which Jehovah Elohim had taken from the man, made he a woman and brought her to the man. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh, and she shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. So let's look at the word woman. Just look at that word, woman. You remember, we talk about her being a female. So before she was a woman, she was a female. She is female. Okay? And we talked about what that word meant and what it means and the symbolism of everything that comes with that word. Right? To bore, to pierce, perforated like a paper with holes down the center where that could be torn easily. That's what female is. To bore, to pierce is kind of specifically to one aspect of her function as a mom, right? I'll just leave that right there. We might have kids in the room listening. And this word is Isha. Okay? She's a woman, a wife, a female, a woman that is opposite of man. That word right there is really kind of this interesting word when you look at it. That the woman stands opposite the man. Okay? And we in that podcast I did with Daryl, we kind of dug into that a bit because we talked about the different connotations that come out of the word opposite, right? She was created to stand, to be like a mirror. That's what the man saw. That's what he said, this is no bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. Because it was like looking in the mirror and looking at somebody that bears most of your physical attributes. I say most of them because obviously we know a woman is built differently than a man, right? We use the curve, and the woman has the hips, and the man is like a pin. He's straight. He's like a ruler. So she's got the curves. She's got the hips. We don't. Right? So she stands opposite. But we talked about that word that has the connotation to oppose. But remember what the word means, help meet. It's to protect, to help, to surround, to give aid in times of hardships and in times of good times. So all these dynamics are in play. So she's not built to oppose him. She's built to stand opposite him as a reflection, if you will, as a copy, if you will. So we have to we have to take these things into consideration, people. Okay? We are living in serious times with serious things going on. More people are pushing away from God than ever. And I say that because you just look at what they are doing. Not what they're saying, what they are doing. What they are doing to themselves, what they are doing to other people, what they are doing to their neighbors, what they are doing to their communities, what they are doing in the highest places, in government and all institutions across the board. They are pushing further and further away from these ideas, these ideologies. Right? Why? The answer is in Genesis chapter 3. I don't want to go there today. But I want to enforce this point that it is important for us to have this God moment. It is important for us to have this come to Jesus moment, as the old folks used to say. What is man that you are mindful of him? And the Son of Man that you care for him. That you care for. Let's go back to Psalms chapter 8. Let's go back to Psalms chapter 8. Let's read that. Psalms chapter 8 and verse 4. I think sometime before this teaching here, I mentioned it was 8 and 8, but it's 8 and 4. He said, what is man that you, Jehovah, are mindful of him? And like I like to say, that your mind is full of him. And the word mindful, again, speaks to remembrance. It speaks to memory. It speaks to everything that has to do with that idea. That God has created man in his memory. It was has created man in his remembrance, has created man as a memory. So obviously, if God has put his memory in the earth, God is not going to be far from his memory, if that is ever possible. If you can be far from your memory, I think, what's that word where people got illness? He'll be like that. That's how God will be if he can't remember some. If he put us here and he can't remember us. I can't remember, it's Alzheimer's? Might be Alzheimer's. But correct me if I'm wrong. God does not have Alzheimer's. God knows everything. He remembers everything. And so do we. We just have to develop the correct perception, the correct perspective. Okay? What did Proverbs 16 says? Everything seems right in our eyes, but the end thereof is death. Let's go there. Proverbs chapter 16. Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 2. These are the words, this is the written narrative. All the ways of a man are clean in his own eyes, but Jehovah weigheth the spirits. See, I think everything I do is okay. It's all right. It's all good. But is it? And there's another verse that I wanted to go to that talks about all the ways of man are right in his own eyes, but the end thereof is death. Let me see if I can find that. Let's see if I think it's in Proverbs. It's in Proverbs too. Yeah, I think it's in Proverbs. Ah, there it is. Oh, it's in the same chapter. Look at that, look at that, look at that. 16 and 25. Let's go then. 16 and 25. So we just read, all the ways of a man are clean in his own eyes, but Jehovah weighs the spirit, or the more appropriately, Jehovah weighs the intention of your ways, the motive that drives your ways. That's what God looks at. That's what he looks at. Those are the things that he weighs in terms of put it on the scale to see how it will balance out. Okay? If it is a just act or not. Verse 25 says that there is a way. That's the verse I was looking for. There is a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. There is a way that seems right unto us as human beings, but the end of it all leads to death. And I challenge us today to let's examine our ways. Let's examine our perceptions. I perceive something. Why did I perceive it that way? How did I get to perceive it that way? Why am I seeing it that way? Why am I looking at this person as my enemy? Why do I think that this person, this color don't like that color, or that color don't like this color? Is it in the person, or is it what is it? I have to begin to examine. And there are people out there who are examining these things and who are coming to the correct conclusions. But there are way more people out there who are just perpetrating a fraud, who are doing things that this verse speaks to. I'll read it again. Not Genesis. Proverbs 16 and 25. There is a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end of that way are the ways of death. The old folks used to say, boy, you think you wrong and strong. Think about that. You're wrong and you're strong with the being wrong. You're just being arrogant with it. I'm wrong, but I don't care. I'm going down. I'm wrong, but I'm fighting for the wrongness of what I'm doing. Because we haven't slowed down. We haven't stopped. We haven't thought about our motives and our intentions. I'm telling you, people, today we are living in a society that pushes against the pricks, if you will, pushes against the gods, if you will, pushes against God. As a human society, we are trying to push God out of the picture, as if He is nothing and we are everything, and it's all about me, myself, and I. It's all about us, when it's actually the absolute opposite. It's not about us, because we will die. It's appointed upon man once to die, and then the judgment. And what are we going to do about forever? What are we going to do about forever? Are we going to be like Israel, or are we going to be like Esau? Are we going to want things our own way, regardless of what it costs? Again, I'm not trying to be political. I'm not trying, to. I'm just speaking from what I'm seeing as a human being out there, as a father, as a man. Man, you are supposed to be the leader in society, the male. He is charged as the leader. We will get into all of this in the next part, right? Because I'm winding down. We will get into all of this into part 2. Not part 2, sorry. In the second segment of this teaching. Because we have to understand, you, man, are a leader. You're supposed to be a leader. That's the charge that is appointed to you, right? Because you were created first. Between the two sexes, you were created first. Yeah, I'm not trying to be egotistical. I'm not trying to be macho-minded or none of that stuff. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm speaking truth. According to the narrative, the male was created first. And there were reasons for that, which we went into. Or did we? But we will go into that. Okay? The reasons why a woman is not as strong as a man. She's not. I'm sorry. She's not as strong. No. The narrative in the letters, according to Peter, the apostle, he said it. That's what he said. That's what Peter wrote in his letters. He charged the man to act a certain way towards the woman because she is the weaker vessel. She is the weaker vessel. We just talked about it here in the creation account, by the very fact that she was created, not just second person to be created, but the way she was created. Yes, she is strong. Yes, we are strong. But remember, in the very essence of who we are weak. And that's the question David chimed in with. That's the question he asked. That's the wonder of his mind. That's where his mental capacity was in that moment. I look at all that you have created. The moon and the stars and the earth and everything. And none of those things that you create respond to you in a negative way. Every aspect of creation responds the exact way they are supposed to respond. the exact way they were designed to respond. The wind blows, the water is there, the rain falls, the trees, we talk about the trees giving up their leaves in the winter time. Who does that? We, on the other hand, we gather clothes in the winter time. We warm our houses in the winter time. The trees, on the other hand, shed their leaves. The animals look for warm places. They look for holes and in various places so that they could be warm. The animals that live in the colder climates, they know what to do. They know exactly what to do. Nobody argues with God. They do not. They just do what they're supposed to do without question, without argument. It is only us, the human beings, who argue. This morning, I was listening to a podcast, and there were two people they were talking about why women experience pain in childbirth. Well, he wrote about it. That's what we're going to go into. He wrote about it. The written narrative in the biblical structure speaks to that. There is a reason why things are the way they are. There is a reason why everybody, a lot of people, most people, it look like, seem to be pushing away from Yah, away from God. There is a reason. It's not because he don't exist, not because he's not there, not because he doesn't see everything and hear everything and know everything. That's not the reason. We will get into that next time. But we have to understand, people, we were created to service our garden, to service our community, service our families. I heard these two people talking about why they were two evolutionists. They believe in evolution, right? And the word evolution is not a bad word. Just to talk about, things evolve. It's not a bad word. You see what I'm saying? But when you talk about evolution from the perspective that we evolved from walking on our feet and our hands and then walking upright and then doing all this development, that's where we came from. That's not what the narrative says. This narrative doesn't say that. And again, I'll point to the truth that says most scientists, a lot of scientists, doesn't believe in the God, the Creator. They don't believe in him. They believe in their own methods and in their own eyes. What they see for themselves and touch for themselves and taste for themselves. That's what they believe in. They don't believe this narrative that talks about how we came to be. And you could look at every aspect of society and you can see where the biblical narrative is right, is true. Some instances are a little rougher than others, but it's there nonetheless. The narrative that we go into the next time is going to lead us into why things are the way they are and why we operate in the way we operate in. Again, from my perspective, is we have developed this false concept, this false idea of who is God and who is in charge. And a lot of people think we are, even though we are. What are you saying, Maxie? You just said we're not a church. Now you say we are. He did give us dominion. But he also says that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and all they that dwell therein. So yes, we have a semblance of authority, but he has authority over us. And he has authority over everything that he created. So if you're looking at authority, who has more authority? It's kind of like that. If you look at the president, who has more authority than the president? Does the Joint Chief of Staff have more authority than him? No. Does the senator have more authority than him? No. I was a firefighter. Who has more authority than the chief firefighter? The chief fire officer, sorry. In the fire department, that is. Nobody. He's the chief. So from that aspect, he has authority. But who has authority over him? The Minister of National Security, maybe? The Prime Minister? The President? I'm talking about my country. When I say the Minister of National Security and Prime Minister and President, they have more authority. They have authority over the Chief Fire Officer, even though he is the Chief Fire Officer. So yes, we have authority, people. We have dominion, people. We have established that dominion in a lot of cases in the wrong way. In a lot of cases, in the wrong way. And one of the wrong way cases points towards the female. The way we've treated the female over the generations. The way we've treated them. And maybe that's why we have all this rebellion going on the other side. Maybe that's why now the opposition is coming. Well, not now, but maybe that's why the opposition is stirred up to its highest point now. Because of our own malfeasance, our own mistakes, our own misjudgments, our own wrong perceptions of who she is and what is she supposed to do. If you read Proverbs 31, it talks about the woman. And there are women out there talking about, I'm a Proverbs 31 woman. What does she do? She works hard for her family. She takes care of her family. Her husband is known in the gates of the city. This is Proverbs 31. This is Proverbs 31. Her husband is known in the gates. Well, she's working hard. She's taking care of the family. What is her husband? He's known in the gates of the city. You have to figure out, wait a second, why is he known in the gates of the city? What significance is that? It's a lot of significance. Go and research what used to take place in the gates of the city. Go and research what the significance of the gate of the city is or was. What used to take place there? That was like the high court, where the king would sit and rule and judge, where people of renown would assemble at the gate, at the entrance. What does it say? Her husband is known. He is known at the entrance of the entrance of the city, where people come in and go. The husband is known. Hey, Mr. So-and-so, how you doing? Yeah, I'm back. I went away for 2 weeks. I'm just coming back. Nice to see you again. He's known in the gates. So there is this dynamic that this interplay that is taking place with the man and the woman, all to ensure the upbringing of the young ones in an upright, righteous manner. And I'll close reading a few verses from Proverbs chapter 16. What is man? It says, the preparations of the heart in man, and the answer of the tongue is from Jehovah. The preparations of a man's heart. Read the story of Pharaoh. Pharaoh was no joke, man. 10 plagues he had to get. 10 plagues. He had to die before, well, after he died, I didn't think he could know, but he had to die. He had to die before people realize. Don't mess with God. Don't mess with Yah. When he says something, he means it. But Pharaoh was prepared for such a time as that. In his heart, God knew exactly who he was dealing with, and God knew exactly what he had to do to get Pharaoh to do the things he wanted Pharaoh to do, so that every reaction brings an opposite reaction, right? Every action brings an equal and opposite reaction. All right? Let me get out of this King James Version. Let me go back to my Hebrew names version. It said, the plans of the heart belong to man, but the answer of the tongue is from Yah. The answer of the tongue. See, you could devise some schemes in your heart. Okay? You could devise some schemes. If we read Deuteronomy 18, we see how important it is. We see how God operates with words. And people still today think that, the Proverbs did say, death and life is in the power of the tongue, and those who are deceived by it can be fools. Something like that, right? But death and life is in the power of the tongue. That's why you have to be careful of what you say. Because what you say could be detrimental, not just to somebody else, but more so to you. Because you say something doesn't mean that it will happen. We just read that. The plans of the heart belongs to man, but the answer of the tongue is from Jehovah. In Deuteronomy 18, God talks about the prophet. Don't be afraid. How would you know when I, Jehovah, say something? Well, when something is said, and that thing that is said happens, that's because I say it. When something that is said and it doesn't happen, whoever says it has said it presumptuously. That's what Deuteronomy chapter 18 says. When it comes to the word of Jehovah. So, you don't have to be afraid of what you say. You have to be careful of what you say. Old folks used to say, boy, think before you speak. As a matter of fact, one of the letters in the front and in the back of the book say, be slow to speak. Be quick to think, be slow to speak. In other words, listen, pay attention, think about what you want to say before you say it. Because if you say it, and Jehovah causes it to come to pass, it could be a blessing to somebody, could be a curse to somebody, and it could also be a blessing or a curse to you. So what is man? Verse 2, Proverbs 16. All the ways of a man are clean in his own eyes, but Jehovah weighs the motives. Okay? The motives. Remember, your motive, your perception, all of those things, they're not in your mouth. They're in your heart. But out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So then you have to be careful of what you're storing up in your heart. As a man thinketh in his heart. See, there is some leeway from your heart to your mouth. That's why if you think before you speak, you could not say what you was going to say, or you could say what you was going to say. right? Proverbs 16 and 3. Commit your ways to Jehovah, and your plans will succeed. When is your plans going to succeed? When you commit your ways to Him. Listen to this one. Listen to this one. Jehovah has made everything for its own end. Okay? And you see people acting up, and don't follow somebody just because of who they are. Because everything was made for its own end. Yes, even the wicked for the day of evil. Even the wicked has a day that they will come and they will fall. Everything was made for its own end, including the good. Why do bad things happen to good people? Because everything was made for its own end. And you don't know that end, and I don't know that end. So that's something that I have no control over. So I have to have the wisdom to discern. Can I change my end? Can I not change my end? It is better for me to focus on walking upright and doing just, so that when my end comes, not if, there's no if, it's when. When my end comes, I stand a chance in the day of judgment. I stand an opportunity. I stand a chance. Proverbs, that is 16:5. Everyone who is proud in heart is an abomination to Jehovah. Just a minute ago, we was talking about what old folks used to say back in the day. Boy, you're wrong and you're strong. And some people are wrong and they're dead wrong, but they would not move. They would not change. They would push the wrong. They would push the wrongness forever. And that's a sign of pride. And we have to be careful. I have two more verses to read before I close. 16:6 says, by mercy and truth, iniquity is atoned for. By mercy and truth, iniquity is atoned for. By mercy and truth, iniquity is atoned for. By the fear of Jehovah, men will depart from evil. I think Proverbs 1 says, the beginning of wisdom is the fear of Jehovah. Or the fear of Jehovah is the beginning of wisdom. When you have that fear for Jehovah, that's when you begin on that walk of wisdom. That's when you just beginning. Once you have that fear. Without that fear, your wisdom is not there at all. It's not there at all. Because you don't have that fear. And I'm saying this again. Many people today do not walk in the fear of Yah. They don't fear God. They say all kinds of stuff. They do all kinds of stuff. They don't care. And I'll close with this again. When a man's ways please Jehovah, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with him. What is man? Man was created in the image of God, a replica of God, a carbon copy, if you will. Fused, etched, sealed, stamped with the memory of God. Given a woman to help that process. To reinforce that process by procreation. And she was given the attributes to keep and protect and help and all that good stuff. And the both of them together, they're supposed to be like this, like an unbroken chain. And next week, we're going to get into how that chain was broken. We're going to get into how that chain was broken and what do we do about it? How can we reclaim this idea that I'm supposed to, out of me is supposed to emanate every facet of God, every aspect of who He is. Amen? Let's go to Numbers chapter 6 in closing. As I always like to do, close with the Aaronic benediction. And again, to say to you guys, read this. Read this benediction. Read the words and let the words minister to you. Because the words are powerful. The words are powerful. Here is God giving instruction to the priests on how to put Yah's name, His name, upon the people so that Yah Himself could bless the people. Let's read it. If you're there with me and you want to read along, I charge you to go ahead. Numbers 6 and 22 reads as follows. And Jehovah spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Aaron and to his sons, saying, This is how you shall bless the children of Israel. You shall tell them, Jehovah bless you and keep you. Jehovah make His face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. Jehovah lift up His countenance toward you and give you peace. So they shall put my name on the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Shalom. Bonne nuit. Good night. Until next time.